Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I and Oppos am bringing you a new video that continues the love story of James and Diep. The story opens with the harsh breathing of a construction site. James stands in dust and metallic clashes, sweat clinging to his forehead even in the cold. He works hard as if keeping his hands moving could keep his mind from wandering. Planks of wood were stacked high on a wheelbarrow, and James hunched forward to push it trip after trip, the wheel grinding over scattered rubble, his shirt darkening with sweat, every motion heavy yet decisive. Someone calls to him, he answers softly, then bends down again, silent as a nail driven deep into wood. In his eyes there is endurance without performance, effort that is both survival and self-punishment through exhaustion. Then the camera turns sharply, leaving the smell of concrete for the smell of earth. The fields unfold, lush and gentle, neat rows of vegetables, wind moving through leaves like a lullaby. There, white radishes sit huge and bright beneath the soil, so large that Nee stops in her tracks, eyes wide, and lets out a delighted, wow, as if she has discovered treasure under the brown earth. Diep leads Nee down into the rows. She bends, cuts cleanly with a knife, lifts the radish, white, heavy, still streaked with mud at the roots. She drops it into the basket and tells Nee, stack them neatly, okay? Later we'll put them in the pack so they won't bruise. Nee obeys, small hands clumsy but intent, and asks innocently, Auntie, what is this? Diep smiles, her voice soft. White radish. You can dry it and stir-fry it, or cook it in soup, it turns sweet. As they work, Diep teaches in small, careful steps. Walk slowly, don't step on the rows, be careful, don't fall. The rhythm is gentle, like a lesson without a classroom, made instead of soil, wind, and patience. When they finish, the pack is heavy, but Nee's face is bright. Passing a busier path, she suddenly calls out in her childlike voice, ringing across the field, Sister, buy radishes, please. The call sounds both tender and shining, like a tiny seed of tomorrow planted in an ordinary morning. Nee's sweet little call, Sister, buy radishes, please, is still hanging in the field air when the story is suddenly cut off, as if someone yanks a switch between two channels of life. The soundscape shifts at once, a phone rings sharply, someone urges, eat faster, we have to go to work, then a motorbike engine barks to life. The rhythm turns rushed, heated, stripped of river wind and fresh soil. A new scene appears, a large construction site, rebar rising like bare bones, concrete still wet, dust clinging to hair and eyelashes. Here, no one speaks softly. There is no gentle, be careful, don't fall, like in the radish rows. Instead there are shouts, the hard snap of hammering, the sense of time pressing against people's backs like a rough hand. And in the middle of all that noise, a phone call opens a pocket of darkness, clean and sharp, like a blade drawn in silence. Hong, why did you do that to my child? The woman's voice trembles, not from cold, but from being cornered. Each word sounds dragged through pain, swallowed and forced back out. She says she has evidence. She wants to do something big, stand up, demand justice for the child, for herself. But then her voice breaks, because something invisible tightens around every option, every escape. I can't. Not because she lacks courage, but because the cruelest reason is also the hardest to speak, the truth that splits a heart in two. Maybe, because he's my father. The sentence drops with such weight that even the construction noise seems to recede into the distance. And only now does it become clear, behind the green fields and market calls, there is a family tragedy smoldering quietly, a confrontation not only between right and wrong, but between justice and blood. And when that bond of blood is pulled tight, a person must choose, or be chosen for. On the way back from the radish fields, Diep and Nee ran into James near the entrance, where the wind still carried damp soil and a thin bite of cold that slipped under collars. James asked a simple question, how was it? But there was a steady concern hidden inside the calm. Diep told him about lythucan, a clean farm that grew vegetables naturally, no chemicals, no fertilizer. The produce there looked different in a quiet way, thicker leaves, a green that wasn't unnaturally glossy, firm roots that smelled like real earth. But that clean quality came with a high price. Diep exhaled. Stuff like that, ordinary people won't buy much. At the market, they see the price and turn away. And besides, a lot of families grow their own vegetables, so buying and selling is limited. Her words sounded casual, yet behind them was a long calculation. Stock it and risk losing money. Ignore it and lose a rare chance. James nodded, agreeing with a blunt practicality. Exactly. That kind of produce fits restaurants, hotels, big kitchens. Street markets prefer cheap. Then he studied Diep, as if weighing the road ahead. If you want to build long-term, you need connections. Without buyers, even the cleanest goods become hard to move. Nee, off school for the day, wasn't impatient at all. She hovered near them, fiddling with her sleeve, eyes lifting toward James again and again. Then she asked, as innocently as if asking about the sky. Is your house pretty, Uncle James? James paused, caught off guard. No, he answered. Why not? Nee tilted her head. James started to respond, but Nee had already fired the thing she truly meant, straight as a small arrow. Why don't you come live with me and Auntie Diep? The air stopped for a beat. Diep went quiet, her hand tightening around her bag strap without realizing. James looked away, then back at Nee, visibly unsure where to place his words. In the child's eyes there was no trick, only a clear, aching longing, like a little girl trying to pull a man toward her idea of family with the simplest sentence her heart could form. And in that moment, while the talk of prices and buyers still hung unfinished, Diep suddenly felt that something far more expensive than clean vegetables was standing right there in front of them. The story cuts sharply into another house, an air thick with bitterness, where the voices are no longer about clean vegetables or who should live with whom. Here, the mother is shouting, her words breaking under pain and rage, as if she has held everything in for too long and can only explode. I told you to keep the passport, so he couldn't come back, she cries between harsh breaths, then chokes on a bitter, disbelieving sound. I never thought it would end like this. Her son has returned to Vietnam. That return should have meant an ending to separation, but in her mouth it becomes a collapse, a tragedy made unbearable by what she cannot accept, what that man, her husband, has done. She doesn't say it in neat, explicit terms. She doesn't have to. The way her body trembles, the way her gaze hardens, is enough to make the room go cold. She forces him, he must apologize to their son. He must bring him back. If not, she will leave. The threat doesn't sound theatrical. It sounds like the last desperate strength of a mother with nothing left to hold on to except her own stubbornness. She speaks of her son living in a stone house, working so hard his body seems scraped down day by day. Once, when she visited, she saw him eating cassava, rough food just to get through a meal, his eyes lowered, silent like someone who has learned to swallow suffering. Her voice softens then, hurting more than when she screamed. My son has suffered enough. And then she blames herself, the words falling like dropped objects. Maybe she was wrong for pushing him too hard. But the more she speaks, the more a dark backstage curtain reveals itself. This disappearance was never simple, this wandering never accidental. As if some powerful family's invisible hand interfered to keep the son trapped, and then pushed him into misery anyway. That house remains loud, but inside it something is cracking, and no one yet knows how far it will crack before it breaks. Back with James and Diep, after Nee's innocent words, the air seems to catch in the throat. Diep is still half trapped in survival calculations, clean produce, restaurant buyers, the kind of expensive that ordinary people won't pay for. But James's expression has shifted. He is no longer just a man talking business. He looks like someone standing at a crossroads he can't keep avoiding. Diep asks directly, cutting through all detours. Are you still going to find evidence and send him to prison? James looks down and stays silent for a long time. It isn't the silence of having no answer. It's the silence of an answer that weighs too much. Then he speaks, short and dry like a chop of an axe. No, he's given up. He doesn't explain at length. He only admits that after listening to Diep and his mother, he realized there is a wall he cannot step through. Right or wrong, proof or no proof, he's still my father. The word father sounds simple, but in James's mouth it becomes a rope tightening around both his hands and his legs. He says he'll choose another path, a plain life. Manual work like ordinary people, carrying loads, chopping wood, taking whatever job is offered. Part self-punishment, part hiding, an escape from a battle he doesn't dare to fight all the way to the end. Diep feels her chest sink, yet she still tries to pull him toward light. So you'll live like that forever? James lifts his head. His eyes aren't pleading, only tired and honest, tired like someone who has walked in darkness so long he fears the light will hurt. And then he says what makes Diep feel as if the ground shifts beneath her. I can live like this, but only if you and me are beside me. The sentence is both a desire for family and something frighteningly dependent, like he wants to run from his father's shadow, yet needs Diep and me as the place to hide. Diep doesn't answer at once. Outside, cold wind still moves over the fields. Inside her, another question begins to take shape, one she may be forced to speak in the next part. The moment Diep says the word break up, James looks as if someone has yanked the ground out from under him. He presses her with questions, not harsh, but urgent, like a man clinging to the last thing keeping him from falling. Why? Why won't you fight with me? Why are you saying we stop? Diep meets his eyes. There is no coldness there, no avoidance. Only exhaustion and pain, like someone who has cried too much inside and now has nothing left but the calm needed to speak what must be spoken. I don't want to leave you, she says first, as if laying her heart on the table where he can see it. But I made a promise. James freezes. A promise to who? Diep swallows. The name comes out slowly, like pulling a blade from an old wound. Fat. She says it clearly, each syllable cutting her mouth. She tells him that back then, when everything was tangled, when fear covered everything, she promised Fat that if James returned to Vietnam safely, she would end things. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she needed a price to trade for James's safety, a price only she was willing to pay. I accepted suffering, Diep says, and the sentence lands like boiling water on skin. Just to exchange it for your peace. She doesn't decorate it. She doesn't ask for credit. She states it as a bare truth. No matter how much she wanted James beside her and me, she still chose to push him away, like someone closing a door with their own hands so the fire won't reach the house. James stands motionless. He understands in an instant, and yet that understanding hurts even more. Because if Diep were leaving because she didn't love him, he could at least be angry. But here, she speaks of leaving like speaking of survival. And so they both bleed, Diep, because she must let go of the one she wants to keep, James, because he realizes he has been saved by the pain she is forced to carry. Outside, the wind is still cold. But the cold is no longer in the fields, it has moved between them, into the distance that has just been given a name. James speaks in a voice that sounds like he has exhausted himself trying to convince his own heart. He has given up. Given up the things that could pull a person into a long, bloody battle, evidence, confrontation, even the thought of sending him to prison. He chose to live like the locals instead, doing manual labor, carrying loads, chopping wood, sleeping and eating simply as a form of self-punishment and also a way to avoid the shadow pressing down on his life. Yet no matter how ordinary he tries to become, his heart keeps turning toward Diep and me. He wants to go home. He wants to step into a house filled with a child's voice and warm meals. It's just that, he can't yet. Because he's afraid his father will interfere again, afraid that whatever warmth has finally begun to return will be crushed once more. Hearing that, something inside Diep snaps. She looks straight at James, her voice shaking but forcing each word into place. You promised. She reminds him of all the times he told her to wait. And she did wait, like someone holding a tiny flame in her hands, terrified it would go out, terrified to let it go. But now, Diep's throat tightens, and she says the cruelest thing she can't swallow back. I think you've lost your courage. You're not as strong as you used to be." The words cut like a knife, yet Diep cannot keep standing in the role of the one who accuses. Almost immediately, her voice softens, surrendering to herself. "Even so, I'll still wait. Because it's my choice. Because I love you." That confession doesn't ease the pain, it only makes it more real, leaving no way out. She tells him, she used to cry a lot, and James was the one who taught her to be strong. He told her to stand up straight, to be able to take care of herself and of me. And she tried not to cry, no matter how heavy the pressure became. But seeing him live like this, suffering like this, she can't hold it back. Tears spill, hot, as if all the days she forced herself to endure have finally found a way to escape. And then Diep breaks into a plea, unable to keep anything but the bare truth of her heart. "Come home with me, please don't stay here anymore. It hurts me so much." The moment Diep's tears fall, Nee notices. The little girl, who had been fiddling with her sleeve, freezes as if someone has touched her heart. "Auntie Diep, why are you crying?" Her voice comes out startled, her eyes wide and clear, so innocent that any adult looking into them would feel instantly guilty. Nee rushes over, clumsily wiping Diep's tears as if wiping them away could make the sadness disappear. Diep turns her face aside, forcing a smile to reassure her child, but the smile is thin and trembling. James stands there, unsure where to place his hands. If he touches Diep's shoulder, will it hurt her more? If he pats Nee's head, will it make him feel weaker? The silence that follows isn't cold, it's the kind of silence packed with everything that hasn't been said. Then Nee turns and hugs James tightly, her small arms wrapping around him as if he is something precious she refuses to lose. She looks up and says the one sentence her heart has been trying to speak all day, all through this rare day off. "Uncle James, come live with me." The words are so simple they leave no room for argument. No explanations, no plans, only one desire, to be together. James lowers his gaze to Nee, his throat tightening. In her eyes, there is no demand, only longing, the kind of childlike longing that can be stronger than any adult reasoning. He lifts Nee into his arms, presses her against his chest, and comforts her in a low, rough voice. "Good girl, don't worry." He strokes her hair, as if soothing not only her fear, but his own. And then, before the waiting eyes of the child, before Diep's quiet presence, he speaks a promise he knows he cannot afford to break. "One day, I will come home." That promise isn't only for a child. It lands like a vow before their small family, even with fear, even with blood ties and secrets still tangled tight, he must find a way back, not to run, but to stand where his heart truly belongs. A gentle sign that the story was still unfolding. Stay tuned for the next episode to see what changes await Diep in James. Don and Oppos, forget to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and like the video to continue accompanying this story in the chapters ahead.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Mình đang làm video. Bây giờ thì mình vẫn đang trong quá trình làm video.